Hello trainers, Ganeto here, and today we are diving together into Ultra League, and once again we're gonna have my best teams for this meta, but this time with Swampert. So we're gonna lead the first team showcase out of the total 4 with Steelix on its Shadow form, and if you have a Shadow Steelix, well, just feel free to use it over the regular because of its amazing ability to do more damage than usual with the Dragon Tails. And to be honest, after a few Psychic Fangs, those Dragon Tails are gonna chunk a lot of HP out of the opponent, so Steelix definitely a Pokemon that relies a lot on its fast attack, the debuffs and its bulk in order to be useful for the Ultra League. At the back we have Trevenant, which is gonna be our main safe switch for this line. You have to throw it not aggressively but still most of the times in there in order to do severe job against your enemies, and you're gonna see that with Steelix up in front and Trevenant at the back, perhaps you might be weak to that Charizard or Talonflame, but trust me on that, Shadow Steelix can still go toe to toe up against those Pokemon, so I would not be that much worried about that factor. Even against Swampert, Steelix can still handle it with when shields are up. As a closer, we got Swampert because this is a Swampert video after all, and I really like Swampert as a Shadow form, so in the entirety of this video we're gonna watch it going as a Shadow, but to be honest the regular one can work just fine as well. It's not like the Steelix that you definitely need a Shadow one to be much more useful. As a core breaker we have the Tapu Fini only because of its ability to shred apart the Steelix with the water guns, and of course the Fairy typing, which means that they are gonna resist your Dragon Tails for sure, while at the back it has kind of a good matchup, a soft win actually against Swampert, and against Trevenant it's gonna struggle, so the main answer that you can get up against Tapu Fini is gonna be the Trevenant. I suggest that whenever you encounter a Tapu Fini up in front, you are gonna use your Swampert as your safe switch, while you have to keep your Trevenant for the end game and as your closer. And of course for that scenario you might want to run Earthquake over Crunch for your Steelix, because then you are gonna get more coverage against that threat and of course against fighters as well. Registeel and Charizard form a crazy backline, and we're gonna use it in the next one with Swampert up on the lead. This is a Swampert video, so yeah, Swampert is gonna be everywhere on those teams. If you do not have a Swampert, I don't know why you're watching this video, but hopefully you are gonna have, because it's a common Pokemon and a lot of trainers tend to have one. A lot of featured events about Mudkip, and of course we had that Hydro Cannon coming back all the time throughout the years. So up in front, Swampert able to do a lot of solid work up against the enemies. I recommend using Earthquake over Sludge Wave for sure, while Hydro Cannon is gonna be your main way to go against most threats. At the back with the Registeel, I like it as a safe switch, able to debuff the enemy even in the worst case scenario, something like a Trevenant, which happens to be the core breaker as well, and of course the Focus Blast is gonna help you a lot against other steel types. Consider using Flash Cannon if you encounter some fairy types and you want to finish them off, but to be honest you are still gonna have the upper hand against those threats as well, or perhaps you want to have the upper hand against Trevenant with that Flash Cannon, because two Flash Cannons might just do the trick against a Trevenant, because if you have Zap Cannon and Focus Blast everything is gonna be resisted, and sometimes this is not gonna be a pretty cool situation for your team. So for this line in particular, Flash Cannon might just be the better one. Charizard is our main closer, and trust me on that, I am using this one only because it is a rank 1. If I had a Shadow one, well, I would just go all in for it, because Shadow Charizard is gonna do immense amount of work against the enemy, but if you have a high rank Charizard, well, the regular one, just use it because you can still survive one Hydro Cannon from a Swampert and still do severe job at your enemies. I think that this line in particular is gonna work pretty nicely against the meta, even against Swampert. As you can see that our backline is gonna be kinda weak to it, you can still have a lot of options. The Focus Blast, the Pressuring from the Charizard, and of course your own Swampert for the mirror, so I would not be that much worried about that. I would be worried only about Trevenant because up on the lead you can do nothing about it. You have to switch out to your Registeel while you have to keep your Charizard for the end game no matter what. You do not want to reveal that early your Charizard, so Flash Cannon on Registeel for that battle with Trevenant might be the ultimate trick under your sleeve. Combining your Cresselia with the Swampert might be kind of a dumb choice, because then you're gonna be kinda weak to those ghost types, hence the Trevenants and the Jellicents, so that's why we're gonna use them as a backline. The next one, led up by Obstagoon. So Obstagoon can definitely hold down those ghost types, so you can see as to how you can play this team. It's gonna be an APP team weak to those ghost types, so feel free to go with the aggressive swap on your enemies with the Cresselia, and I think you're gonna be just fine. Draw out that ghost type, most probably the Trevenant, and of course then your Swampert is gonna be on a very good spot at sweeping the entire team. Most trainers tend to use something like a Steel type or a Charizard for their end game, so Swampert eventually is gonna have for sure a very good battle for your team. I really like Obstagoon upon the lead in general though, because of its ability to have a chance at the boost with the Night Slash, while the Obstact can definitely destroy down the enemy defense while you can vamp up yours. So up against a Registeel, for example, if you can go with the Obstact at first, then you can even tank a whole Focus Blast, which is crazy, and I really like that factor. And at the same time, you're gonna debuff the enemy's defense while your counters are just gonna shred them apart. As a core breaker here, I have decided to add a Scavalier, but other than that, I think you're gonna have no other weakness at all. For a Scavalier though, the counter damage can be absurd for your Obstagoon, while at the back with the Cresselia, I think that the Megahorn is just gonna dominate this matchup. Your only solid answer to a Scavalier is gonna be Swampert, but to be honest, when shields are up, it is still kinda risky on who can land that final move, so you have to be afraid of their drill runs in combination with those counters, because if you have a Shadow Swampert, well, those counters are still gonna hurt while you have those shields, so you have to take note of that. Time for the final one, trainers, and we're having the Swampert up on the lead, the Walrein at the back, and the Giratina. So we're looking at a weird ABA team style, which is not gonna work like you think it will, because still we're gonna have Swampert as our closer. Most of the times you're gonna switch out to your Giratina, because you want that Giratina to go aggressively in. It is an amazing Pokemon, pretty safe to use, even against the Charmers it has a lot of play, so you can see as to why you can use this one towards your advantage. As again up against a Trevenant, you can always safe switch out to your Giratina, and you need to have not the move that I carry over here. You need to have something like a Shadow Sneak in order to do super effective damage against that Trev or Jellicent, so that you can have the upper hand. That move is also gonna help you against Cresselia, which is the core breaker of this team, and do not be afraid to use a Shadow Force one if you have it, because Shadow Force is just gonna do so much more damage. However, it is gonna be much more energy spender there, and you do not like that at all, so Shadow Sneak is a safer choice for that matter. As a closer, we got the Walrein, which is pretty spammy with those Icicle Spears, able to pressure a lot the enemy, and I like the Earthquake for that steel coverage that this team is definitely gonna do well, to be honest, because you still got Swampert, and any Swampert team out there cannot be weak to the steel types. So we're having a very solid line, pretty bulky at the back, and if you have a Shadow Walrein, do not use it, go for the regular one. I'm using here this one only because it is rank 1. It is much like the situation with the Charizard. So that is gonna be a wrap for today's video. Please write down in the comments if you like those videos, this series that I'm making with best teams with a simple Pokemon like a Swampert, a Trevenant, a Charizard. I take this one and I'm just gonna put it in a team 4 times in a row, and I want to provide the best content for you. So providing some feedback in the comments is always gonna be super helpful, and I really thank you for your support that you show to this channel lately, trainers. So with that said, I think that Swampert is gonna be a dominant Pokemon. It is already a dominant Pokemon, but with these teams you're gonna have the best out of it, so that's why I recommend them for sure to use them in your Go Battle League journey. Thank you for watching, trainers. Just be sure to leave a huge like before you go, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and if you want to support even more, well, joining as a member can always help with that matter. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you all into the next one. Take care, trainers.